was 20 years old. I had 2 years of law enforcement training in a college, junior college program. We were the campus police during this was a new program of training potential officers. And then when we graduated, my classmates went on to four-year college, and I didn't have the money, so I joined the Army. And I wanted to be a military policeman, but the Army assigned me to counterintelligence. Went through basic training, but afterwards I was assigned to an intelligence unit. Going to Vietnam, I went by troop ship. I was in a small unit with 12 officers and 12 enlisted. When we got to Vietnam, our assignment was to work with the South Vietnamese doing counterintelligence, and counterintelligence means countering the enemy intelligence where they would do espionage on us, try to get our information about our troops so that they could conduct a military operation against us. So my job was to try to catch those people coming in and infiltrating a town or a unit. And we were trained in interrogation, and then liaison was the major thing. This was brand new in Vietnam. I went there early in 1966, and the mission of our intelligence units was to work with the Vietnamese CIA and the Vietnamese National Police. So I was there in a small town, also down in Four Corps. Vietnam is divided into 4 different areas. About from here is called I Corps, and then there's a big long piece that's 2 Corps, and then 3 Corps is around Saigon and Cu Chi, where Dave was assigned. And then there's the Delta region that Cliff worked. I also was in the Delta, and I was in a province, which is like a state right near the Cambodian border. The province I was in ended in Cambodia on one side, and then the other side there was another province that went down into southern, and this was where the 9th Infantry was assigned along the Mekong Delta, the Mekong River. So I was assigned to the Anang Guan is the Vietnamese intelligence, like the CIA, but it's Vietnamese. And then the National Police, this is their badge that they wear on their chest. I was the advisor to the commanders of both of these units. Ironically, they were friends. They were educated in France. They were Vietnamese, but they went to France to get a college degree, and then they were officers in the Vietnamese Navy called ARVN, ARVIN, Army of Vietnam. And we were countering Viet Cong, and those were local people conducting a guerrilla war, and there were no guerrillas there, but it was an undercover kind of a war where we didn't know who they were during the daytime because they were probably villagers working in the fields. And then at nighttime, they might come out, some of them might come out armed with mortars and rifles and attack the military, Vietnamese military, wherever it was, they felt it was vulnerable. So they would shoot mortars. A mortar is a big cannon where you drop the round into it, and when it hits the bottom of the barrel, it shoots a rocket up. And they were very accurate in having a rocket, a bomb, go up and then land. So they were good mathematicians. The Viet Cong and the North Vietnamese had been fighting the French for years ago, and they were very well trained. We thought we were superior, but we learned that the North Vietnamese was a very formidable force, and they came down and trained the Viet Cong. After 10 months in the country and working all with the Vietnamese, I had an interpreter that worked with me. If they captured a VC, we would interrogate that individual to try and find out where he came from, what village he was in. whatever we could find out from him. I taught English on Tuesday and Thursday night. I lived on the economy. I had an apartment. I had bodyguards. When I went out to the villages, I wanted to make sure I had a bunch of people with me so that we didn't get into a firefight. But on this one day, I had arranged to go to a village to find guns and to interrogate the village chief and find out the intelligence we had was they had a cadre of Viet Cong. So we wanted to go there. I decided to bring 15 of my intelligence and national police with me, but we met up with a Army company of 75 troops along the trail, and I wanted to take over the village so we didn't have a firefight. And that's typically what our operations were, to try to overcome any resistance that they may have right away and avoid a combat situation. So as we were going towards the village on the trail, we started finding booby traps, which were wires across the trail, and the wires were about this high, and we had to step over the wire. We were 20 years old, so we could do it, but it was also very dangerous. If most infantry units would try to disarm these or make them neutralize them, but these our scouts who went ahead of us marked them with a ribbon, yarn. So they marked on this side and this side with yarn, and then they cleared the brush away so you could see the explosive, which was these grenades that were on a wooden stick, and then they drove or cut off a tree and tie the hand grenade to the tree, and then run a wire from the pin that pulls out on that to detonate it. So if you tripped over this wire, it detonated the. These are called Chi-Com grenades. They're similar to what they used in World War II. The Germans had these with a long handle, and they were able to throw it much better than us with it. Our hand grenades were just like a baseball, and we would throw those. This was a little more, but in this case, they were stationary. We found 3 of them. On the third one, I was helping my radio operator who was carrying a big pack on his back with the radio. I was helping him across the wire. When he stepped on the other side of the wire, on the safe side of the wire, he stepped off the trail, and instead of detonating a mine, he fell into a foot trap and had punji sticks go through his sandals. They were just wearing sandals with, just like you would with just a rubber sole. So these punji sticks, which are bamboo sharpened and stuck into the ground about this deep, and then they would stick up about that far. If you fell into this trap, it could go right through your foot. I didn't see what happened. I was trying to help him get this backpack. He started screaming, and that's when everybody moved, and 3 of these detonated on the trail. So I was wounded. I had both legs broken, and I was, after the detonation, we got into a short firefight, and I was shot in the back. I was medevac by helicopter, along with, there was only 2 people wounded. There were 10 killed. The 2, me and another American, were the 2 that were wounded. And then we were medevaced to a hospital, and which is called the Musk unit. It was a new concept. It was a blow-up emergency room kind of thing. There was only a few beds inside. I stayed there overnight. While I was there, we were mortared, and this thing is it blows up with air from a vacuum cleaner kind of a device on the side, and when the mortars exploded nearby, it popped this thing and it deflated on top of us. And they came and put 2x4s beside our beds to keep the roof from coming in on top of us. From there, I went on to Japan, and I was in the hospital for 6 months recovering, but I returned to active duty. Afterwards, I was also in law enforcement, a deputy sheriff and DA investigator, and then postal inspector for 25 years. After I retired, I went to work for Netflix. So, questions? Do I take 7, 10? I don't know. Sorry.